Anyone who's seen a movie or book has come across a character that they thought was boring, cliche, or just plain stupid.
Oh, hi, Mark.
But how can we tell what makes a character interesting, or if we're just not seeing what others do? An interesting character seems to be rooted in a feeling of honesty. We want a character to feel real. But more than that, an original character has to be, well, interesting. But of course, this is difficult. Being able to make something that people have never seen before takes effort. You can't just use the first idea that comes to your mind. For some reason, whenever we grow out of childhood, it seems like creativity is a lot harder to manage. That's why Hollywood directors often fuck children in order to get their creativity. In all seriousness, a hard look at how to make characters original involves some preliminaries before we can continue. First of which is how originality even happens. While a common argument for how an original character arises is that it's just a character who acts realistically, I don't think a film in which I collect jars to put my Hatsune Miku figurines in is very interesting, despite how realistic that might be. The key to an original character is simply interest. A character has to do something in a way that we've never seen before. But the problem is that every time a character does something we haven't, or in a way we haven't seen before, we've seen it before. And so no one else can do that. This isn't to say that you can't have characters that are similar. In fact, many great stories have characters we would consider cliché. What this means is, our story has to have at least a few elements which are original to it. For example, as unpopular as this opinion might be, I think The Shining doesn't have many interesting characters. The characters are a pretty generic horror movie family, and the interest comes from their mystery in relation to the actually interesting part of the story, the hotel and The Shining itself. While it's good to have both interesting characters and an interesting setting, a lot of stories actually work better if you don't. If we bog down a horror movie with super original characters, we can take away from the actual mystery and horror. But there is of course a balance here. And even if we take this into consideration, the question of how to actually create interesting characters in a story is still left unanswered. So if we want to make original elements, how are we going to do that? Well, the process involves, both on a micro and macro scale, a novel idea created by iteration and a fleshing out of that idea for the sake of realism. I imagine the process of writing a story to be like a rock grinder. You have an idea you get from either experience or other media, and you grind it up through your premise in order to get a precious metal. One of the skills of writing is essentially being able to grind up rocks efficiently. An example is how Attack on Titan essentially took the premise of the game Love Alternative and shifted it to be a dark fantasy story. The point is though, all creativity comes from scavenging through both real and artificial experience. But the second part of this analogy is that the bigger your rock, the farther away it is from your story. If you're writing an action film, a car chase is a pebble, and you don't get so much as a medal from it, but a subtle character drama might be a boulder. The farther away you get from your genre, the bigger the rock, which of course builds more pressure and gives a more likely chance of diamonds. Some rocks are going to be too big to fit, and it might break your grinder. Kojima and David Lynch, for example, buy a new grinder every damn week. But, okay, what's the actual use of this analogy? The novel idea is of course the rock, and the grinder is the aspect of realism and fleshing out. The point is to purposely seek out ideas outside of stories of your domain and see how they fit. An example of this I've done with scenes is just taking a random thing on my desk like a lamp and seeing how I can make it the central focus of a scene. Another example is taking an archetype your character represents and changing something about it, making a strong character archetype weak, or a weak character archetype strong. Most of the time you're going to get pebbles or boulders, but after a while you'll get something that's just big enough to fill up your grinder. And it's up to you to have the skill to make it realistic and convincing, and if you succeed, my friend, you have an interesting story. Thank you for watching. If you have any interest in having people to write with or people to critique your stuff, I would really recommend joining the Discord server that's in the description, because we have a lot of exercises in which you can particularly practice any specific thing that you're looking for, or get feedback. And if I'm being frank, it's kind of dead right now, so it would be good if you joined. Thank you.